Give it just another minute before we formally start at 10 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll get started. Welcome to the first installment of the fall series of KCARD's Agribusiness Grant Workshop, also known as Growing Your Farm and Food Business. Today, I've got my colleagues Katie Bowman and Marissa Christie with me, and we're going to discuss business planning and why it's essential to the grant process. I also wanted to start and open up in case you all haven't had any familiarity with the Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development before. We are KCARD. We are here to provide technical service assistance, market planning, business planning, grant facilitation. We'll help you grow your business. We'll help you find funding for your business. We'll help you apply for that funding, and generally just try to help you through any quandary you may come with. So let's see. So Katie, if you want to speak just for a moment about KCARD services as it relates to what you provide.
Absolutely. So one part of KCARD, we offer many different services regarding business development, business planning, and cooperative development. One of our services is based around marketing. So we can provide direct-to-consumer marketing assistance, so helping you think through and develop a Facebook page, a website, other social media accounts such as Instagram, Pinterest, as well as kind of looking at your overall marketing for your business and what does that mean to reach your target customers. While we all might be targeting a same general population, individually, every business is different and everyone targets a little bit differently and has a little bit different market on how they can reach their customers. And so we really work with you one-on-one to develop what that looks like, what that means for your business, and then how does that look in actual practice. We can't do it for you, but we can really work through the step-by-step and what that practice looks like. Another part of the marketing aspect of KCARD is that we can look at your social media, your online reputation, your website, and come up with reviews and recommendations on how to improve it, but also how to get more people to either follow you, to go to your website, to purchase product off your website if that is a route that you're taking, as well as kind of how to better fit into the algorithms that are already out there that are constantly changing. That is kind of a baseline of our services. Obviously, we do a lot more individualized services depending on what your needs are and for your business. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. All of our contact information was in your email and it's always on our website as well.
Thank you, Katie. And we've also got Marissa Christie to discuss kind of business planning and development. And Marissa, if you'll just briefly mention KCARD services as they relate to what you provide, and especially the kind of project facilitation as well.
So for business planning, KCARD will help you. One of the biggest things we do for people is help people set goals and look at how to get there. A lot of times marketing is a huge part of that. We also go through everything from record keeping and thinking about hiring your first employee, or now you have employees, to doing your financial projections and helping you understand why to keep financial records, better financial records, how to keep them. We can discuss those sorts of things with you and also set it, kind of walk you through it quite a bit. You mentioned project facilitation. So we also do board trainings. We can help you think through the steps of your project, look at potential, and this is more James's thing, but look at potential funding, think about potential partners, and help you understand a little bit better if you're just coming up with something, maybe the lay of the land. But for a mature project, we can also do project evaluation and feasibility studies. For a mature business, we can do something called a business management operations analysis, which walks through and says, like, here's some great strengths about your business. Here's some things you might want to think about doing, and it's kind of examine your business both inside and out. And it's a very intensive process. So, but the business planning is what most people in the marketing, or what most people ask for. And that has a lot to do with just seeing where you are and where you want to go, and finding steps and ways to help you get there.
Thank you, Marissa. So you may wonder why you're attending a grant workshop and we're talking about marketing and business planning today. And the answer to that is, to put together a strong grant application, you really do want to be able to pull from both a strong business and marketing plan. It'll essentially tell the grantor your needs and kind of assess, your plan going forward, so they can see where their money's being spent. Because in the end, a grantor, even if it's the federal government, is an investor, and they want to make sure they're investing prudently with these federal and state dollars. So let's see then, Marissa, if you'd like to pull up your presentation, we'll get started on that. And while you're doing so, I'll kind of just briefly discuss the Ag Grant Facilitation Program. And what I do is essentially, once you've engaged with KCARD, we'll kind of do an intake process to learn a little bit more about your business. I'll read through that. I'll schedule a phone call with you, or a Zoom, or an in-person meeting if possible, to discuss your funding needs and what you need for your business to grow. And then I'll perform some research and do a follow-up with you to present kind of the funding opportunities that are currently available and what will soon be available down the road. And we'll also kind of just always keep you in the back of our mind while we see new grants come available, which is also a good way to join our mailing list and keep up with us. You can join the KCARD newsletter. You can also join the Funding Matters email list via our website or via our email. And I encourage you to do so, as that really helps me to push out the most current grant information to you on what's available. All right, and Marissa, I'll turn it back over to you if you're ready to go.
Okay, I think I am. We'll see.
Yes.
So, and there we go. Okay, just making sure it's doing the proper thing. So just to give you a little bit of background, KCARD was established in 2001. We are an independent nonprofit organization. We work with individual farmers, to processors, to farmers markets, to local food buyers. So we have a lot of different things that we do. I'm not going to spend a million minutes on it, but while we actually do what we do, we can assist you with business plans, assist you with marketing, and not doing the marketing, but like Katie pointed out, doing the step-by-step. We can analyze the feasibility of new ventures or new ideas, and that's part of that project development. We help businesses figure out what loans and grants are good for their situation. We answer questions. A lot of times we find an answer to a question that we didn't know the answer to, or find the person that's going to be able to help someone. That is a large part of what we've done over the years. We can evaluate your financials and do financial projections. We also do mapping, such as ArcGIS, and can help you with some of that. We do tech and website questions, employee issues, management questions. How do I get my website back and Facebook has locked me out? Those are all questions that we have answered over the years. I think Katie probably answered more of those than any of us. So that's what we do. We are the computer side of business, the paper and computer and all the reasons that you didn't get into farming side of business. So how we serve, we usually do one-on-one meetings and workshops, over 500 entities, which means either individual farmers or nonprofits engaged with KCARD in 2019. So we tend to talk some of those, how do I apply for a KSU small scale farm grant, to I have 6 years of financials, can you help me set some benchmarks, or 3 years? So, so I wanted to talk a little bit before we get into goal setting about, and if you all got the email with some worksheets last night, we're going to loosely follow that. That was also done so you can do it on your own, but we're going to kind of follow that this morning. So what are some reasons to do a business plan? There are internal reasons and external reasons. Internal reasons include making sure that everyone involved in the business is on the same page, making sure that you don't have 15 goals that will each take 40 hours a week, making sure you know what your goals are and where you're going, making sure, and this is one that when we start doing financials, a lot of people, I've had people scared, making sure that you're making money or on the path to making money, you're making a profit, not just sales, you're making a profit, and looking at how to grow that. A lot of times business planning, it's about the journey, not the destination for internal reasons. It's learning about your business and ways to make it better. External reasons include if you're going to try to get a loan, or maybe you're applying for a grant that requires a business plan. Those are really common external reasons. It usually has to do with getting some sort of funding. People doing business planning for the internal reasons, if you're about to embark on that journey and you're thinking like, I'm going to put a business plan together because I want a grant. As you get into it, you may find that it's good that we put this business plan together, because now I kind of see where I want to be in 3 years, how I'm going to get there, and what I need to do. And once you start breaking things down, like, okay, I need $400 in sales at this market, 20 weeks a year in order to meet my goal, then you can put effort behind that and maybe not worry so much about your chicken enterprise and focus more on your vegetable enterprise, because your vegetable enterprise is where you really want to be, even though your chickens are taking up a lot of your time. So, look, I completely didn't. So it's not the destination, but the journey. There's a lot of times that we ask people questions in business planning and we are not an organization that's like, here's the guide, have fun with that. Now we're going to give it to you and at least have you do a little bit of work to let us know that you're serious. But a lot of it is a back and forth in questions. I had a call with a farmer yesterday, and I thought we were going to discuss financials, but they asked a question about how they're going to market to their different target audiences. And I was like, you know what? We haven't done the marketing section of your business plan yet. It's obvious that you need it right now. She's like, this would be in there. I was like, yeah, let's talk about your different target customer groups. And we went through that and kind of figured out a way to address, she had 3 very diverse populations she was serving with her products in very different ways, and talking about how to meet the needs of each one of those. And so that question of, target market, we were able to pivot yesterday afternoon. I wasn't like, no, we're talking about financials today, and this is what you must do. So we were able to, reframe what we were doing, and I sent her a very messy email with a description of our target audience and how to reach them, and we'll work from there at the end of the day yesterday. The shadows. So, maybe you're selling broccoli and you can make a lot of money selling broccoli, but buying the broccoli transplants costs more than selling the danged broccoli. I put this example out there because we've seen people lose money on broccoli and sweet corns more than once. Let's see. That decided to switch for me. So, we do poke around quite a bit. We look at your enterprises generally. And when I say enterprises, it could be, we could say it's vegetables versus chickens versus cattle, or peppers versus pumpkins versus goats. So you can lump them different ways. We're going to look at how each one of them makes money and then see what your business needs. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of this one. We aren't going to get into financials today. I'll spare that for another KCARD person to do that another day. So there are 4 parts of a business plan. There's the business description. Why do you need to do this? Well, the mission and vision of your business, who you are, how your background of how you got there. It's nice to get that on paper and really think about it. And it is important part of the business plan because it sets the stage for all the rest of it, which includes marketing, the 4 P's: promotion, pricing, product, and place. So those are very important, and those go in your marketing section. A lot of times we talk about your target customers, who it is you're trying to sell, what needs do they have, what's the demographics in your area, how all of those things are going to go in there. Operations and management. This is kind of like we just got to write down how many barns we have. but it's important, and we'll get to why that's important. Like, how big is your high tunnel? How many do you have? How many acres, do you have that's in pasture? How many is in, how many is hay versus being grazed? And your financials, including the projections. I've actually had someone very, very fearful of financials a few months ago. They did not want to look at their financials, and we've been talking forever. And it was the last piece of their business plan. And I was like, why are you, there's like, I'm so scared I'm going to send you these numbers. She's like, I just send receipts to my tax person every year, so I don't actually look at it and know if I'm making money or not. And I was like, just send them. Your dread over sending them is going to be way worse than what could happen. And she sent them, and indeed, she was making money, and she was on the path to make more. And it doesn't always go that way, but if you're losing money, you should want to know that too. So the financials and the projections, and getting to the point that you are actually making money. Okay. So before we get to goals, I want to talk about your mission. So what are your values? How do you want to be known? Think about it, and that's the question. What are your values? If someone were to ask, I thought about it the other day, and this is a really morbid way to think about it, but if I died today, I would want people to at least say that I was friendly, I was hardworking, and I cared about people. Something along those lines. Like, what are your values? What do people want to see? Are you community oriented? Is there a big faith component? Is sustainability? What are your big values? Those things. So on the worksheet, as you're filling it out, if you're filling it out, or on your notepad, or just think to yourself right now, think, before you write your vision or mission statement, think about your values. Is this business or this farm, something that you would, this is the type of business or farm that does this? What are 3 words to describe your farm? So do you want it to be a family farm? Do you want it to be sustainable? Do you want it to be known for quality? Maybe you want it to be all of those things, but think of the top 3 words, like quality, healthy, and local. Those could be 3 words, but you need to come up with your 3 words based on your value. And what do you want others to think about when they think of your farm? So you're trying to write your mission statement or your vision statement for your farm. And really, mission is different than vision. So what are 2 things you want others to think of when you think of your farm? If you were a pastured poultry farm, you might want people to think of humane and local, right? Your birds are living outside, free grazing, they're getting some feed, and you're providing the local community with meat chickens. So in your mission statement, somewhere in there are going to be involved those 2 words. So serving our local community with, humanely raised chickens, that is, or something like that. So for example, KCARD's mission is to facilitate agricultural and rural businesses in Kentucky. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We want to facilitate these businesses. All right, now we're to the goals. So this is going to define how you achieve your mission. They need to be specific. Alita has many times given credit to Steve Isaacs, and I know several other KCARD staff had him as a professor for teaching them the importance of SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So specific means that it's not, I want to grow more tomatoes, or I want to grow more vegetables. Specific is, I want to grow more tomatoes. Measurable is, I want to grow 500 pounds more tomatoes. Attainable is, can you actually grow 500 pounds more of tomatoes, or is maybe 250 a better, or maybe it's acres of tomatoes. It can be whatever, but Relevant is, let's hope you're selling tomatoes and you need to have a market for tomatoes. And time bound is, I want to grow 2 acres of tomatoes next year. And you have a market for your tomatoes. That's so those are, or maybe you want to access a new market or you want to hit a sales goal, but those are very, sometimes a goal is to have more acreage. Sometimes a goal is to have a specific process or product in place. So on your little thing, I would normally during a live workshop pause and give you guys a moment to come up with some goals, and then I would badger you about your goals and make sure they're all of these things. Make sure you don't have 20 goals. 3 to 5 goals per year is pretty good, because in the end, we all need to sleep and eat and breathe. So when I've sat down with farmers before or other business entities. I came over from one meeting with 19 enterprises and each with their own set of goals. I was like, well, let's think about like how many hours are in the day, you know, or let's choose the ones that are most important to you. So sometimes the process of setting goals lets you be like, you know, it's really important to me that we get a wash and pack line next year. So that's going to be a goal. So, you know, and the wash and pack line should be relevant because you have somewhere to sell produce that needs to be washed and packed. You know, which is probably beyond a farmer's market or restaurant. All right. So these are our attempt at some really general goals. My husband has his own business, and the first time he made goals, there was something like sell to people who are beyond friends and family. And I was like, well, who are those people? How much do we want to sell? Let's think about that first. Let's break that down. He did not enjoy that process. And sometimes for us, when we're going back and forth with a farmer or someone else we're working with, they'll send us something. We're like, let's break this down. And that's where it gets hard. Business planning isn't easy. We don't take a boilerplate and slap your stuff on it. It would be a lot easier for us, trust me, and we get a lot more business plans written. Unfortunately, we are really concerned about your business and your overall, actually not, unfortunately for our workload, we're really concerned. Fortunately for you, we are very concerned. So we do try to walk you through it, but it takes effort on your part. If you sent us these 3 goals that are like number 1 for year 1, make more money. Number 2, you need to increase your marketing. And number 3, you're going to sell more product. Look, those are some broad overarching things that most people probably want out of their business. Maybe they don't really want to increase their marketing, but they'd like to make more money or sell more product. Or maybe they really enjoy social media and videos and radio spots and coming up with that. So they do want to increase their marketing. I could totally see Katie falling into that camp. So I am actually going to pause for just a second and let you all think of a couple of goals. And while I do that, since I need to chat, let's think. James, Katie, would either of you have an idea of kind of a goal that you've seen that just needed to be made a little more specific, a specific client goal?
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Kate.
Go ahead. I would say one that I get often is, especially from people who are farming in addition to working an off-farm job, is they want to bring themselves or their spouse or at least one of them home full-time to work the farm full-time. And it's always, I want to farm the full-time, I want to be on the farm full-time. And it's always, well, how much do you have to live? And it's not like how much do you have to live lavishly, it's how much do you have to live. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people kind of struggle with. And a lot of times I've seen, and we kind of really get into the weeds of, okay, these are our monthly bills. This is where we're going. This is where we want to be. We don't want to always live paycheck to paycheck, but we can make things slide. I've got a farmer right now, and they're both full-time farmers. They don't do anything else, but they live off ramen, and it's not a great option. And they've got produce and they raise produce, so they obviously have their fruits and vegetables too. But Their at-home expenses are very different. They've always put themselves last, and that's very easy to do, but you have to make sure that you're still living as a person. You are given that opportunity to do so. And I think that's one thing that's always really hard for people to kind of grasp and really get a hold of.
Yeah, we have a lot of people that want to make that leap into full-time farming. And so we're like, let's look at a 5-year plan. Where do your sales need to be so that your income's right? And that's where the financial projections really come in. James, did you have an example?
Yeah, often I'll have folks that will just say, you know, I want to get a grant or I want to grow my farm. And for us, specifically for me in my role, it entails having a deeper conversation where I probe about what your operation is, because nobody knows your operation better than you. We work at KCARD and we see a lot, but every operation, every farm is a little different. So we don't assume that you're just like a copy paste template of someone else's farm. We know you have your own needs. So like for instance, if you need to redivert water to get, your pasture to quit being so wet, we can help you find grant assistance for that. Or for instance, if there's something that you have a need for that a grant won't cover, we can look for other areas where you're spending money to see if grants will cover those, and thus they'll free up kind of that cash you were going to spend on that other project on the project that you thought you might initially find a grant for. So we'll often have deep and probing questions. So if you're in a conversation with me, and just forgive me if I go kind of what seems to be off topic and ask you about different aspects of your farm, because we're just trying to get a more complete picture of your entire operation, because we know that you didn't get into farming so that you could apply for grants. Nobody does that. That's why we're here to help. And we're just trying to figure out where we can kind of help you displace those funding needs throughout your operation. And I also wanted to mention, because I forgot to at the beginning, I've disabled the chat feature, but I've enabled the Q&A. So if at any point during this entire webinar, anyone has any questions, please click the Q&A button at the bottom. Should be near the middle on the left. You can enter a question there, and we'll be answering those likely towards the end of the webinar. All right.
Great. Thank you both for those examples. I think having someone get off the farm full time is often a goal, but it's not necessarily a smart goal. We have to know how we're going to get there. So let's take these 3 much simpler goals. I'm not going to go down the path of how someone gets full time on the farm today. So goal number 1, make more money. Maybe you want to make $25,000 in net profits in year 1. So that's $25,000 after all of your expenses and all of your growing expenses and your overhead, your farmers market fees, or your transportation fees to take it to a distribution center, or your processing fees for cattle and hogs. All of that, $25,000. Maybe that's a much better goal, because when you're going to, it's not just more money, it's net profit, how much net profit, and when it's going to happen. Now, in order for this to be relevant and attainable, your farm should probably be making closer to 25 grand right now. If you made $500 in profit, net profit last year, this goal could be a little ambitious. So number 2, increase marketing. I get a lot of people, and I refer them to poor Katie, who want to do a better job marketing. So what a lot of people mean by marketing is actually, and included in marketing, is increasing your sales channels. This is a goal that we've done many times, like make sales to 3 additional wholesale customers by the end of the 3rd quarter. So that means maybe for you, wholesale is defined as a restaurant, maybe it's defined as a grocery store, maybe it's defined as a school, or maybe it's finding a combination of those and a wholesale purchaser like a food hub or a distributor that can purchase your product. And number 3 would be sell more product. Let's hope if you're doing the first 2 that happens, but let's make this a little more specific. So maybe you're doing beef. Increase the sales of beef sold through Mayberry Farmers Market by $15,000 by the end of the year. So here we're talking about an increase. Thinking about your increase above what you're doing now is often a very, very logical way to think. A lot of times when we're helping people think through financials and sales goals, we talk about, like, can you do 20% more? Well, this means that if you're selling $1,000 a week, that now you need to sell $1,200 a week. Can you do that? Like $200 extra a week. or we'll break it down and say, look at your weekly income on tomatoes, or, your seasonal income on beef. Like, where can you bump it up 10% more, 30% more, and actually attach numbers to that. A lot of times goals end up being that. So I'm going to take a break from telling you about your wonderful goal setting, and you have the worksheets that you can look at, but we're going to pause on those. And Katie, who is quite the expert on marketing, from social media to, well, everything, I'm going to turn it over to her, and I'll stop here.
Thanks, Marissa. I'm going to go on and get my screen sharing here. All right. Do you all see the presentation? This is Marketing Your Farm and Food Business. Awesome. Okay, I did that right. So as Marissa mentioned, today I'm really going to kind of talk about marketing overall. It's going to be a lot of information in a very small nutshell. So if you have questions, please ask them. And James, if somebody does ask a question, feel free to interrupt me and let me know and I'll answer it. So the biggest thing with marketing is you are selling product to a consumer. Someone else is going to be buying your product. So what does that mean? That means, one, you have to be passionate about what you're selling, which obviously you are because you raised it and it's your farm. But you also have to know that the customer might not be right, but they still hold the money. And so making sure that the information that you're giving them, the products that you're giving, how you're marketing them, is going to be targeted around them. So as Marissa mentioned, the marketing mix, which is product, price, promotion, and place. These are all things that you have to identify before you even start putting a product into the marketplace and before you even start promoting your product. Because if you're starting a farm and you have 8,000 ideas of what you're going to raise, when you set up that Facebook page or when you start developing your logo, even before the Facebook page, you have to have an idea of what you're going to be about. So really, what are those three words that describe you? And then those 3 words can kind of dictate how you're going to market to your customers and the type of messages that you're going to be sending out. So product obviously is, what are you selling? If you're offering a service, what services are you providing? The price, what are you selling it for? One thing that you do have to remember in price is that everything costs money. And so what does it cost you? You don't want to be selling your apples for $2 a pound when it costs you $1.90 to raise an apple, to raise a pound of apples. You don't want to be just making 10 cents on a pound of apples. You really got to make sure that you're making enough money, one, so it covers your costs, but it gives you enough of a profit that you can continue to grow your business. Your promotion, how are you going to sell it? How are you going to build the awareness in your brand if you haven't already? Or how are you going to continue to build that awareness in your brand to even new target customer groups? And then place, where are you going to sell it? How are you going to get it to your customers? Where are they going to be able to find you? The biggest thing with marketing, and one thing that's on the handouts that are on the website, on that website page, is to talk about your customers. So who are they? Where are they? What trends are dictating what you're doing? Obviously, you're starting to grow turmeric for a reason. Why are you growing turmeric? Why are you growing garlic? What's the marketplace telling you? Or is it just because you like growing those things? And if that's the case, you might be fighting a much harder uphill battle than if you're looking at the trends in your marketplace, looking at the trends in local food and seeing what kind of fits in there, and then what fits with what you're wanting to do with your farm as well. The other piece of that is you're understanding your market. Obviously, we all live in very different places. What's going on in Eastern Kentucky is very similar to what's going down towards me in South Central Kentucky, which is similar to what's going on in Western and Northern Kentucky, but they all have their own little nuances. They're all a little bit different, and people are looking for something a little bit different. And that little bit of difference makes a huge impact on what you're doing. So understanding your demographics, so who are you selling to? Where are they located? Are they college educated? Are they white collar jobs? Are they blue collar jobs? Are they a healthy mix of all the above? Obviously, COVID's a recent development. That has impacted our food system tremendously. So how does that and the changes that we're seeing from COVID affect what you're doing? People are now turning towards farms. They now know that they have farmers as neighbors that they can buy product from. So how does that impact who your target customer is? Are you now targeting people, one, who knew how to cook, but now don't know how to cook, but are new homeowners, new families, trying to transition into different jobs? What does that look like? And then how does that impact your business? That is going to be a huge thing going into 2021, because a lot of those trends that were going around COVID with the groceries and with food purchasing are not changing. They're predicted to stay around for a couple years. And then where are you getting information? Obviously, Google is a very wide, and the internet is a wide world of information, but making sure that you're getting consistent, relevant content from sources that are trusted is going to be good. These are all things that KCARD can help you with in your business plan as well. So don't feel like you have to do all this background research on your own. You need to do some of it to help us to help us figure out to where we can guide you and where you need to go. The next piece is your competitors. If you and your neighbor are both growing tomatoes, they are your competitor. They might be a great guy or a great gal. That's fantastic. They're still competing for your same customers. So business is business, personal is personal. I try very hard to tell people that, and it's not because you're wanting to like beat them down with a hammer. It's because you're targeting the same type of customer with the same product. So really kind of think about who your competitors are and how they're reaching out to your key customers. I heard a quote recently about marketing, and it said the best marketer is the best mimicker. So really think about what some of the bigger organizations that are doing similar products to you, or even ones in other states that you've seen or networked with or found on a Facebook group are doing, and see if you can try some of those techniques. If you look at, so if you're selling chicken, frozen chicken, for example, and selling it direct to consumer, look at what Purdue is doing, Purdue Farms. Yeah, it's Purdue Farms, and there's a lot of controversy around it, but they paid millions of dollars for that market research. The millions of dollars that you don't have, they have paid for that market research. So mimicking and targeting the same type of customers on a much smaller scale, they've already done the research for you. You're just kind of going along that same route. That's really the biggest thing with competitor analysis, is really looking at who your competitors are, what they're doing, what the prices are, and where they're located in comparison to you. And then analyze yourself. It's always difficult to look inward, but making sure that you're looking at the strengths of your business, the weaknesses of your operation, and the weaknesses of your business. I know as KCARD staff, we can go into a business and have a 2-hour conversation with you and walk out and say, okay, you're really good at X, you're really good at Y, you need to work on Z. And we can work with you on doing that and work with you on the steps to make you a better marketer or make you a better record keeper. But it's going to come with effort from you as well. And then you also have to look at the opportunities. Obviously, COVID, as detrimental as it's been a great opportunity for small farms. And then the threats presented to your business in the marketplace as well. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm flying through a lot of this. And we've talked a little bit about your customers, your target customers. So who are your customers? What need are you fulfilling? So your customers are going to come to you because they have a need that you can fulfill, and they trust you enough to come to you first. What is their ability to purchase? How much can they purchase? Do they have quite a bit of disposable income where they can come and buy a case of wine from you every month? Or do they have minimal disposable income where they're just coming for special occasions and buying a few steaks or a few roasts or whatever it might be? And then what is their willingness to purchase? Are they willing to buy from you versus going to their local store and buying from their local store? One thing that I always try to talk to people about, especially developing customers and thinking about your target customer, is if you close your eyes and you think of the one person who would buy your product repeatedly. What did they look like? What did they do? Do they have family? Create an image, create kind of like a Sims character, or create a person like your favorite TV show character in your head and what they would do, and try and think of the best ways to target them. What do they value? How do they make decisions? What does their daily life look like? That will then help you target your customers a lot better. So we're going to talk a little bit about traditional marketing and a little bit more about social media marketing, only because I think especially now the digital side of things is much more relevant than some of the traditional things, but you still need to have a healthy mix of both to be able to target your customers effectively. So traditional media and traditional marketing is about actively broadcasting your message to everybody. It's kind of like a buckshot blast. It goes everywhere. You hit as many things as possible, but there's not really a deep impact to it. Social media is about getting others to do that for you. So if you've ever been to a party or the 4th of July with small children, one person gets a sparkler, everybody wants a sparkler. And so everybody gets sparklers, and then there's sparklers everywhere. That is what you want to do, is you want to be that one person holding the sparkler, hoping that everybody else comes and gathers and say, I want to help, and it's kind of like this giant crazy light show. Social media. The key about social media is it's social. If you are not a sociable person, social media might be a very hard thing to pick up and do effectively. If you're not a very techie person, that is okay. Social media is not very techie all the time. It doesn't have to be very techie. It can be very low tech. The biggest thing is that you have to be willing to share and post on a regular basis. If you are not the sharing kind, if you are not the sociable kind, if you're kind of the closed door, like my husband, where I don't want people knowing my business, find somebody else who likes to be an open door and likes to share their business to do your marketing for you, especially when it comes to social media, because you need to be posting at least 3 times a week, most likely 5 times a week, sharing things that are happening on the farm, sharing the good, sharing the bad, sharing the mundane. I've got a client who goes live on Instagram every day or every other day, and all she is doing is moving her cows from one pasture to another. But she talks about why they're doing it. She's talking about the different cows around her. Yes, there are cows running around her, but a lot of her customers are in the Louisville area. They're not on the farm. They're not used to connecting to the farm. This is their connection to the farm. You really need to be able to bring your customers to your farm via images, via videos, via going live, via stories, which is our very short images or videos available for 24 hours. In addition to social media, you need to promote in person. You need to make sure that everything you're doing is promoting and sharing information. You go to the grocery store. I had a lady approach me the other day in the grocery store. I was wearing a Kentucky Women in Ag shirt. I was standing in line with my children, and I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, trying to manage them from grabbing every candy bar possible. But she came up and asked me about Kentucky Women in Ag because she saw my t-shirt. I spent 20 minutes talking to this lady about it because she saw my shirt. So if you've got branded content, if you've got a hat, if you've got this, go and talk to people. Do not be afraid to share information and share your story and connect them to your farm. So social media 101, don't leave out the traditional marketing. Always, always talk to people. Talking to people is the #1 traditional marketing piece that you can do, is word of mouth. It all needs to work together. We're going to go through really fast Facebook, Instagram, and your website and email marketing today. So Facebook users, there's about 2.5 billion with a B monthly active users. This demographic kind of breaks down who's on Facebook more. It's majority women, 75% women, 79% between the ages of 18 and 49. That is going to be the bulk of your demographics. There are very few businesses that target to people over the age of 50 and only people over the age of 50. So Facebook has a really broad audience, as we just talked about. It is the #1 social media platform. It also comes up in Google searches. So if you are posting to social media 5 days a week, but you only post to your website twice a year, your Facebook page is going to come up first because it is constantly updated, constantly posted to, constantly interacted with on your end. Facebook does not have to be time consuming. I know we all get sucked into the social media black hole sometimes when we start scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, but Facebook has a great feature called scheduling post where you can schedule posts up to 9 months out. So for KCARD, for example, I sit down once a week, spend 45 minutes scheduling up posts for the next week, maybe the next 2 weeks, And then I'm done. All I have to do is get on there about 15 minutes a day and manage, make sure there's no comments. If there are comments, to respond, messages, everything else. And that really keeps my workload from being sucked into this black hole of social media. Not saying that I don't spend a lot of time on social media for my job. I just try and minimize that time. So it's a really great tool. You can share all different types of posts. This is a shared post from the Center for Crop Diversification about a publication they have. We share content from other people. One thing that you want to make sure you do is on the slide, you can see the blue Center for Crop Diversification. Make sure you tag people, and that's using the @ sign, and then whatever their handle is on social media. Instagram. So Instagram is one of the second biggest social media platforms, definitely the second biggest social media platform in Kentucky. It is owned by Facebook, and there are 1 billion again with a B, monthly active users. It is mostly women, mostly people under the age of 30. The 30 to 49 group is starting to build because Instagram came out when I was in college, graduated college, somewhere around there. And so my generation, who are now into their 30s, are starting to use it more, especially to connect and share information. Post with location. So if you're at your farm, make sure your farm is a location on there. It's really easy to do. You just type it in and you can set the location, and then it just constantly pops up. Tuesdays and Thursdays show better engagement for some reason than other days during the week. You can share your Instagram post to your Facebook page. So those 5 posts a week on Facebook, 2 of those can be from Instagram, can be shared over. So you're not always having to create original content for all social media platforms. So the nice thing about Instagram is you can post 2 to 3 times a week and you're okay. The biggest thing with Instagram is going onto your stories and going live or sharing information, pictures, links, whatever it might be. And that's always really big on Instagram. They're starting a new thing called Reels, which is like Snapchat. It's a lot of information, but it's more choreographed, better snapshot of images and pictures and video clips put together. But that's a whole nother story. The next thing on your social media that falls under social media and digital marketing is your website and online store. The Center for Crop Diversification did a great webinar earlier on this year about setting up a Square store, I think it was. Yeah, Marissa's nodding her head. And so that's a great webinar if you want to do e-commerce and sell things online. I highly recommend sitting in and listening to Brett Wolf talk about it. KCARD can help you with that. We can help you kind of storyboard out and think about what goes on your website. The biggest thing with creating a website, if you haven't already done so, is really thinking about what you want on your website before you hit the let's create a website link. You can do it yourself if you have experience. You can go through what we call a drag and drop website builder, which you pick a template and then you just input your information in and your pictures and kind of move things around where you want them. It's a lot easier to do. You have all the control over it. So you're not paying somebody to update your website for you when you have to change your hours during the seasons. So key things to remember about your website: always include your hours, always include your address, always include a phone number, a short description. Connect all platforms all the time. Make sure that you are promoting that you are on other platforms, and then where they can purchase if you don't sell off the farm. Again, a little bit more information about website store options. You can have an online store only. You can do a full website. There are tons of ways that you can build a landing page, which has those 5 things that we just talked about, all right there in very short information. And then there's some low tech options as well. And we can talk through those. If you have questions, just let me know. Email marketing. Those are emails that people subscribe to and go directly to them in their inbox. That is key. It's a little bit of legwork on your end, but they're really beneficial, especially if you're sending out monthly updates, if you're doing weekly sales calls, where it's like, hey, we've got new products coming into the farmer's market. Don't forget to check us out. Those are really good, especially if you're doing CSAs. Weekly emails are almost necessary. The great thing about these is that people who purchase via email generally spend over 100% more than if they were just going to be finding you and purchasing from you. because they want to know your information. They want to know more. So again, people want to receive more promotional emails because they matter, and they can then click on them to find the best deals. The best times to send your emails are 11 a.m. on Tuesdays. If Tuesdays don't work, then Thursdays. You can play around. You can see how many emails are opened. You want to make sure that your emails don't include tons of images. I know the picture I have on here is from America's Test Kitchen. They have a lot of images, but the type of post this is, or the type of email this is, really does require images, because they are saying all of these chefs are then providing information on what they use and how to be a better chef in your home kitchen. Make sure that the emails are not too large. The reason why we say use less images is because then the emails get really big and they don't open very fast. To grow your email list, make sure you always have something on your website or your Facebook page or somewhere where somebody can click and subscribe. This is on the KCARD page. And don't be afraid to ask. Just ask people, say, hey, don't forget to subscribe to our email list. Like, don't forget to subscribe to the KCARD Funding Matters email list or the KCARD Connection, so we can be in touch with you and we want to share information with you. I know there's 27 of you who are not involved, so you have to do this. See, not that hard. Content, again, call to action. Give them something to do. Click, buy now, share now, subscribe, check out our blog. All of those are call to actions. Make sure you have one, or else it is just a nuisance email. Again, share content, share information, share recipes. People are now cooking more and more at home. They need recipes. They are running out of things to do with ground beef. They are running out of things to do with chicken breast. They are running out of things to do with kale. Share the recipes. Marissa and James are both nodding. Again, final thoughts. Before posting anything, before sharing anything, ask yourself, is what you're sharing useful, interesting, informative, entertaining, or will it help connect your audience with you or your brand? If it does not do one of those 5 things, do not share it, period. Again, be a good friend. The nice thing about social media, it is social. If you are not a good friend, you probably won't be getting good friendly responses back. So respond to comments, even if someone says thanks for sharing or this is great content, respond back to them. Just say we're so happy you enjoyed it, or you are a great partner in all of our endeavors. We appreciate your support, whatever it might be. Thank people who share your content. If you've got a client or a customer that shares your content, thank them. Go to that post that they've shared from you and say thanks for sharing. And then the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. That's the number one thing on social media. And then the sales piece, 80-20, 80% should be information, 20% should be sales related, of buy now, pick up now, all of that. Nothing changes overnight on the internet. It might seem that way, but sometimes it takes a while for people to understand your message and for it to click in their heads. So just keep trying, keep at it. If it doesn't work after a couple months or a few weeks, reevaluate and see what's going wrong. And we're always here to help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our number and all of our contact information is on the website. James and Marissa both can answer any questions that you might have as well. And we look forward to working with you, and thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And Marissa, I believe you've got the second part of your presentation coming up. I'll let you pull that up.
I do, but being the non-millennial, going to take me just a split second here to share the proper screen the way that I want to share it.
No worries. We did have a question come in a moment ago. It said, my micro farm products are honey and pecans. The goal is to make and sell roast pecans from local products to sell to Lake Barkley, the visitors from Lake Barkley who want an inexpensive gift or memory from the lake region. The trees range from 2 to 8 years old. As they mature, we sell the honey in the meantime to make cash flow. The question is, what is the best way to avoid being considered a hobby farm by the IRS while the 37 trees grow to production age? And
Okay, so I'm not a tax accountant.
I was about to say, I typically would defer.
Actually, I would refer this to an accountant because we are not accountants. We do help with financial projections, but tax issues are not something that we usually give advice on as far as being in line with the IRS. I would, in your case, talk to a CPA. I know that several people have concerns about if their farm isn't making money while it's, they're filing a Schedule F, they're filing a Schedule F, they're filing a Schedule F, and it's lost money in 5 years. We have seen that, that can make the IRS a little interested in you. So, one, if you're growing pecan trees, I'm guessing you had a lot of expenses up front. So, and you're going to have some income with the honey. We can shoot us an email. We can talk more specifically and maybe see if there's a way, if there's someone else who's had a similar problem. I can't think of anyone I've had this problem with recently that we've talked to a CPA with, but shoot us an email or give us a phone call and we'll go through the specifics. But in general, I would talk to a CPA about this.
Yeah, I agree, Marissa, that we typically don't give strict advice on that. I will forward this individual a private link to the IRS page that discusses how to distinguish a business and a hobby. There are really 9 questions it looks at. And as Marissa mentions, it's not clear cut. It's kind of muddled, and you'll want to look through just these 9 simple questions to help determine it. But also we always suggest, give a call to your CPA, or if you don't have a CPA, call one and just discuss it with them. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear you out and hear the nature of your business and help you decide how to best progress with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not an accountant. So.
All right. Thank you, Marissa.
You're welcome. All right. So, Katie, thank you for that very thorough and quick overview of marketing. I will say that it's funny. My husband, who is not a social person at all, somehow does very well on social media marketing. But I think it's because he shares frequently, often, and he shares the story of what's going on. And it is not all sales posts. I would say less than 20% are actually sales posts. And he's also very good at doing things that I am not comfortable doing, like doing stories and videos and things that I can't believe he does several years later. So anyway, so we're to the nitty gritty of the business planning. I'm going to give you some fun things about looking at social media and building your own website. But as far as the business plan goes, we're holding off on the financials for another day. But today, a lot of people neglect this part of their business plan, and that's kind of the management and operations side. And I assume, since someone stopped me, that you can hear me and you can see my screen well. Okay. So after your goals, you're looking at, what do you have? So we've had people, like, what all do I need to list here? You need to list the things you use, your buildings and equipment. You do not have to list down to every hoe and shovel. But if you have a tractor and implements you have with that tractor, that'd be good. If you have barns, how big are they and what are they used for? The reason for this is not to there's a couple of reasons. One is to know what you have. The other is to know what you need. And one, from a financial perspective, is so I can figure out, if you're doing a balance sheet, the value of what you have and your depreciation. I won't make you figure that out. I will ask you questions to get there, but we will figure it out. So your buildings and equipment. Another main piece is the business ownership and structure. You may not need to incorporate. You may not need to make an LLC. I would actually recommend talking to someone before you decide that your farm needs to be an LLC, because it might just end up costing you more to register with the Secretary of State every year and more to file your taxes. LLC does not provide you a shield of impenetrability for your farm versus personal, for your farm business versus personal. There's a lot of steps you need to take to make that more of a shield and not just a piece of paper that can be ripped as easily. And so, like having a separate bank account. Those are good steps. Not moving money between business and personal freely without some documentation that it's an owner's draw or something along those lines. But knowing your business ownership and structure, and we've actually seen times that, I've gone in thinking that it was the husband and wife, or just the wife, or just the husband, and it turns out like only one of them's listed on the LLC because I can see it on the Secretary of State website, or maybe I'm only talking to the husband, but the wife is actually really involved and she does all their marketing, which gets to your management and key personnel. A lot of times going through this process will help, especially that are partners in business, whether they're husband and wife, or they're just partners in the farm, where, their spouses, if they're brother and sister, what have you, or if they're just friends who've gone into a farm enterprise together, an agribusiness together. Maybe I raise livestock and Katie raises produce, and so we've partnered together to do a CSA that is a whole farm CSA, livestock and produce. So who does what? We have a few businesses, a few farmers that do CSAs together, different types. So whose website is it listed on? Do you create another website? How does your business do this? Who manages your social media in your business? Is it, which spouse does that? Which partner? Is everything you? That's great. Marissa Christie is the sole owner, operator, manager, and labor of Marissa Christie's Backyard Garden. So you do want to talk about anyone else. If you have employees or contractors, how many you have. Looking at that, looking at if you have someone that helps you do marketing, if you've hired someone, if you have an accountant or a CPA, those questions. If you're using QuickBooks. The other thing to stick, another section, is any regulations or permits. Many people have a microprocessor permit. Maybe they have GAP, third-party audited GAP, for the good agricultural practices. And that is very relevant if you're wanting to do more wholesale. Maybe you have to have, maybe your live meat facility, you have to have permits for your waste disposal. Those sorts of relevant things need to go in that section. And then how you produce what you produce. It doesn't have to be an entire farm plan written down, but we use irrigation and conventional methods, or we use pasture raised cattle that are fed feed the last 60 days, or we are all grass fed. Some understanding of how you produce what you produce. It doesn't have to be more than a couple of paragraphs, or maybe even just one paragraph for the business plan. This is just to give someone reading your business plan what you do on a daily basis. This is the management and operations. A lot of times, and I know Katie has done this, we've had farmers that, when they're looking at their management operations, we realize, or it's usually back in the goal setting phase, but somewhere around now is when we've done things. I think Katie has given people worksheets to be like, how many hours are you going to spend on each thing each week? We've done that too. I don't think Katie's the only person who's done that in KCARD, but it comes into your goal setting, impacts your management and operations, because you do not have 120 hours to spend on farming each week, especially many of our farmers who have a full-time job and are looking for that goal of getting off farm. Like, how do we manage this? What enterprise? So how does that affect your daily management operations? So
one thing I will add in there too is you have to sleep.
Yeah, you really do have to sleep. So we're not going to put your hourly schedule in this section, but this is a lot of times a good time to evaluate who does what on the farm, who does what for the business, and how, and put some time into like, how much does it actually take to do all that? So especially when we do business management and operations analysis, imagine that. We get very in the weeds on this, and that's usually for a more mature business. All right, financial management, if you're doing, I mentioned this earlier, record keeping and accounting, how you keep your records, what insurance you have, all those fun things. We'll get to this next week. And the reason that we bring this up with grants, and I'm almost at the end of how long I have to talk about this, but there's part of your worksheets that you got, and my worksheets are on this other screen over here so that I can scroll and not hear paper rustling for you guys and gals. What do you need to achieve your goals? So you've written down what you have. What do you need? Is it land? Is it a facility? Is it equipment? Is it working capital? Is it some money up front? We find many times that newer farmers are not as apt to take an operating loan because they don't want to have to pay back the loan. But sometimes a small operating loan at the beginning of the season or beginning of the farm is really necessary to be able to purchase what you need up front. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the financials. Do you need more people? Several of our farmers that have begun farming full time have employees now, because in order to reach the scale that it made enough money for them to farm full time and leave their day jobs, which has happened, thankfully, they need to hire people to help with the daily labor of the farm. And then maybe what you need is some expertise or information. We just had someone who asked a question that likely will need some more expertise on taxes. And then think about what you need first. Actually, I'm going to stop sharing here, and we're just going to get to see me talking without a slide, because I know that we've had over an hour of slides now. So, what do you need first? Do you need more land? Do you need a certain piece of equipment? I've talked to more than one farmer that has said, man, they're beginning farmers and they wish they had a tractor because they were moving compost from here to there, chicken litter from here to there, or mucking the barn, and they're going to compost the calf or the goat stalls, the milk, whatever. They're going to compost, and they're going to move that over, and then they're going to scoop it up in a wheelbarrow, shovels again, and move it back to the garden once it's compost, fully matured compost. So maybe they need a small tractor. They probably don't need a $35,000 new tractor. I get that question less and less often. Maybe they need, maybe you need some working capital because you're doing a value-added product and you need to both plant enough. You want to make blueberry preserves. I don't know. Let's pretend you're going to make some blueberry preserves. You need some upfront money to be able to purchase all the blueberry plants you need. And once you've done that, maybe you're making a little bit every year and cash flowing some of it and paying off that upfront money by and there are actually sources of funds to help pay for those blueberry plants, but maybe you're cash flowing a lot of it, but then you need to buy jars, set up a commercial kitchen, or pay a commercial kitchen rental fee, or do home processor for the preserves, whatever. You may need working capital again that year that you start doing preserves. So think about that, what you need. That's what I'm going to leave you with today, I think. Yeah. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what about financials and kind of prep a little bit for next week. And then we'll take questions. So, like I said, I've had many people be nervous about doing their financials. They'll get gung-ho on the rest of the business plan and actually finish everything. And then it takes months to draw out the financials. People tend to fear we all fear the unknown. And when you haven't taken a close financial look at your business, a lot of people are scared that it isn't going to be a good look. It's not going to look good for them. It's our job to help you walk through that and make it a less fearful experience and see, for example, one of the things that you may do instead of doing a yearly cash flow, all right, this looks great. I'm going to have $30,000 in sales next year and only $15,000 of expenses. That's a happy moment thinking that, looking at those projections. What you should probably remember if you're looking at that is that in May and April, or March, April, and May of the previous year, you were pulling money out of your personal account and eating ramen noodles because you had a cash flow pinch trying to get everything you needed. So doing financials, we've had people estimate their monthly cash flow at the beginning of the year. Okay, I'm not going to have sales until May, but here's all this stuff I need. Here's how much money is in the account for the farm this year at the beginning of the year. Let's walk through that and see where the lean times are. Let's also walk through it and see what markets we're just too dependent on. Is there something way to diversify? We've had people add CSAs as a way to give them some income up front. Just 5 or 10 CSAs for their farm. They're experimenting for the first year with some friends. They're going to be forgiving, right? Because your first time doing a CSA. And even experienced growers can have failures. As a matter of fact, both this year and last year, large CSAs in the state had a couple of weeks that nothing went quite right and people didn't get a share, and they apologized and reimbursed. Whether it was flooding or frost. I think last year it was flooding, this year it was frost. So, people who purchase a CSA tend to be a little understanding, but you should also make your best effort to compensate them in some way. And you need to think about for the cash flow too. When you're looking at cash flow, okay, well, if I do take out that loan, can I reasonably pay it off? If I get a grant, will that actually help me make money? Is what I'm going to do with that grant the thing that's going to take my farm to the next level? So if you have some time between now and next week, I would suggest just getting an idea for a profit and loss statement and a cash flow. I'm not going to suggest you try to do your balance sheet, but start listing out your monthly income and expenses. I think that would probably help you walk through next week and understand, there's 3 statements that they'll probably go over. One's a profit and loss, which is kind of like, am I making money or not? One is the cash flow. It has all of your sales, your expenses, your overhead on it. The other's the cash flow. And that's where you're going to see on a yearly or monthly basis, I start with $500 in the account. Can I make it in the positive next year? Does it ever drop negative? Because we all know our checking accounts, I can make a spreadsheet have a negative number on it. My checking account doesn't function like that. So getting an idea of your income and your expenses and what it is that you want to spend money on in the future by walking through your goals and listing your equipment and your assets now. That will probably make the discussion next week much more interesting for you and more productive.
One thing I will add, Marissa, is when you work with KCARD on your financials, we are not here to judge you. We are not here to determine if you are a bad record keeper or a good record keeper or anything in between. We are here to help you understand where you're at, understand the steps it's going to take for you to get where you're going, and help you make those steps. So anything that you share with us is shared in confidentiality. Any struggles that you have, we're going to be there to help you the best that we can. Obviously, we are not CPAs, we are not tax accountants, we are not lawyers, but we want to help you with your business grow and also be able to be profitable enough that you feel comfortable. So anything that we can do, any question, as silly as it might sound, is not silly at all. I'm sure that one of us or all of us have heard it sometime or have had the same question. I know I have had some serious silly questions about financials in the past.
Yeah, I've been handed financials out of glove boxes of trucks in the form of receipts, shoe boxes. I've also been given spreadsheets. I've been given QuickBook files, and I've actually seen QuickBook files that in some ways were messier than the danged receipts. So, we've worked through a lot. I've sat at people's kitchen tables and put financials that were written down on notebook papers into the computer for 3, so that we could do it, help them look at where they are and where they're going. There is nothing. I don't want to issue a challenge that there's nothing we haven't seen and worked through, but it would be really hard at this point to sincerely surprise me. And, it's just, nobody went into farming because they were like, man, I want to keep all my receipts and make spreadsheets. This is awesome. I don't know anybody who did that. I think people go into farming because they want to farm and they would like to make money at it. Dealing with your financials and getting those in order is one of the things to do along the way to make sure that you can make money at it and to achieve your goals. So with that, I think we're pretty on schedule for questions. James, is that correct?
Yeah.
Just real quick, I am going to share my screen one last time, I think, because I want to show, in case you don't have it, you haven't seen us in a while. Here, I completely forgot that I made a slide for that. So your resources, we have a couple of resource page and then a little bit of stuff from UK, Ag Econ, and of course, how to contact us. I'm assuming that many of you on the webinar have our email, our general contact info, kcard@kcard.info, and then 859-550-3972. So just wanted to share that before we turn it over to questions.
Thank you. And I'd just like to add kind of the importance of keeping good financial records and why next week's topic is even relevant to the grant conversations, because most federal grants will require a few years of financial records, and they'll want to have projections as well, which is just, extrapolating out your past data into the next 2 or 3 year period or whatever they require. But having good record keeping practices not only is a good business practice, but it's great for grants because it helps you understand, like Marissa said, where that cash flow pinch may be, what assets are really helping you make money, which ones aren't so much. And we can kind of help determine what you need. And just to mention as a metaphor, like Marissa and Katie had both touched on, we're not here to judge you. We're not here to kick the tires and lowball you, but we're going to ask you to crack the hood. And we're not here to scrutinize. We're the mechanic that's here to help. And the best part is, while we're not CPAs or accountants or lawyers, we have a wide network of folks throughout the entire state that provide technical service, and we can connect you with the resources that you do need if we're not the specialists in those. And Kentucky has a really great system for that. So at this time, if you all do have any questions, please go ahead and type them into that Q&A box. We'll give about 2 or 3 minutes of that in an awkward radio silence, likely while you all type. Oh, we do have one. Thank you. Thank you, somebody, for saving us. All right. Oh, that's great. Someone says, let's see. Woody says he's been working with Marissa and Olivia on his business plan the past couple of years, and both have been a tremendous help. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, Woody, thank you. It's been really great to work with you. I have people ask, and I think, I have people ask, when do we approach KCARD? And Woody, I think that just based on past conversations, you would say that you didn't know if you should approach KCARD yet or not. You should approach KCARD when you're thinking about your farm as a business. There's no certain size, there's no right time, there's no wrong time. When you're thinking about your farm as a business, whether it's a mature business, a beginning business, a business that hasn't even started yet, go ahead and approach KCARD. While we wait for another question, I'll tell you what, since we haven't got any questions, I'm just going to ask Katie a question. So, Katie, what do I need to have together before I approach KCARD?
Generally speaking, we always ask for goals first. So if you are in the pre reaching out to KCARD stage, really think about your goals. They don't have to be super smart goals, as we've referenced all the time, the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely, but they need to be goals related to your business that are to a point that you're comfortable sharing them. I know if you're like me, I have 8,000 things in my head, and some of those are goals for my life, for our farm, and for whatever it might be, but they're not shareable. They're not a shareable content yet, in marketing speak. They're kind of just way laid out there in the clouds, and I haven't reined them in yet. So start reining in your goals a little bit. Think about what you want to do and think about what that means for your business. And then reach out to us. There's never a bad point. I know I had an email from a client recently, and it was an apology email. She goes, "I'm apologizing for being a bad client of KCARD. Do not kick me out." We do not kick you out. If you want to leave, you are more than welcome to. If you want us to stop bothering you, let us know and we'll stop. We'll stop reaching out. But once you're in our system, we really do try very hard to reach out to you every quarter, every 6 months, every year, to touch base, to check in, to see how things are going. Even if you came in on the grant side and not the business planning side, we still do the same thing. We want to make sure that you're growing, you're developing, your business is going where it needs to go. And so everything that we do is we're trying to help you. And if it gets to a point where you no longer need our help, please let us know and we will leave you alone. We don't want to, I feel like I'm a professional nagger some days, and I don't want to keep nagging you if you don't want it.
Well, so Katie, they don't have to have, so Katie's like, what you need is goals. Katie did not say all your receipts in order, a business plan partially written, your social media is super cool. You don't need any of those things. I like that. I just super cool in a recorded webinar. But so you don't, my point is, if you're thinking about your farm as a business, there's no prerequisite for reaching out to KCARD. You do need to be willing to share some overall goals and have an idea of where you want your farm to go. Because we have a lot of people that drop out, and sometimes people reach out to us because they just have a question. Hey, who can help me with X? Who can help me figure out an aquaponics system? Well, here's some names. We do that a lot. Like we realize that maybe the person they needed the most was not KCARD. So.
And a lot of the times, as Marissa mentioned, most of our services, 90% of our services are at no cost to you. We are heavily funded through state and federal programs. We apply for the Kentucky Ag Development Board funds every year, and they provide assistance to us to assist you. We apply every year for the USDA Rural Cooperative Development Grant and several other programs specific for Eastern Kentucky as well that allows us to come out to you specifically, meet you on your farm in social distancing standpoints right now, and work with you one-on-one and work with you to develop and or expand your business. There are a few services that we do charge for, but at the beginning standpoint, those are very far and few in between for you.
Thank you, Katie. And in chat, I just want to drop an email link that you all will receive, or it may even redirect you when we close the meeting, to our resource page for this webinar series. And I just dropped that in there now, which will have the recording when we get it uploaded. It will have all our materials, both Katie and Marissa's presentations for your review, and also just lists of additional resources, both for this and for the upcoming webinars that are remaining. So your state and federal resources and just some details about the departments that will be joining us and what we'll be covering. I also did want to drop our general link, just the kcard.info link, and encourage you to click that now, scroll down just a little bit and sign up for both our emails if you want. I actually have a funding email going out this afternoon around 2:00 p.m. Eastern. So I'd encourage you to sign up for both of those, as it is a great way to keep in touch and on top of what we're doing and kind of how we can better assist you.
Sorry, James. I said, in addition to that, our website, we do post weekly blog posts every Tuesday and Thursday. And so those are relevant to topics that we're getting now, to series that are coming up, or topics that we think that people need to be thinking about. So if you have any questions, feel free to check that out. There's tons of information there about online sales and website development. There's also tons of resources there about cash flows and starting off. So feel free to peruse those and scroll through those as well. We're all available for questions as well. If you have specific questions related to our presentations, if you have specific questions related to the services that we offer, you can always reach out to us at the general phone number. And there's also a contact page as well on our website that you can fill out, and that you'll get assistance relatively immediately.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this webinar recorded, not live with us at some point in the future, if you do have any questions, please send them to kcard@kcard.info, just our generic email, and they'll be directed to the appropriate staff member to help answer it. Because we really want to engage with you as well, even if you're not on here live. Go ahead, Katie.
And as a reminder, please fill out the survey when you get the link, and that way we can better these types of webinars for you. And also in the future, when we do start hosting in-person workshops and events again, we can tailor those to better fit the needs of you all, because these are really we want to assist you the best that we can.
Absolutely, and we would certainly appreciate that feedback. So I'll give it a few more seconds. But if there are no further questions, then we'll tie up the webinar, and we appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining live. Thank you for taking the time to watch this if you're watching it recorded, and we look forward to working with you. Again, reach out to us at any point. We're not looking for a polished product before we talk to you. We're looking for you just where you are. So thank you so much. You all have a great day.